And back then we did not have daycare, so guess who came to work with us? So
okay.
right over here you can see that the baby is strapped onto the mother's back. So we had a lot of Japanese and First Nations women who were working at this station. So often their husbands would be fishermen. So they would be fishing out at sea, and the wives would be working here in the cannery at the slime table, cleaning the fish. And so once the fish has been cleaned, what you would do is take the fish, place it right over here, down here, and then the fish would fall down and then continue on to our next station.
What's this? What's the difference? This one damaged?
So what they would do is you would pick up a couple of fish, and maybe you would place it over here. And then because you have a lot of fish, you didn't want too many fish sitting up here. So you might pick up some and put them down here and just pick them up and continue. So the clean fish were placed right over here, and they fall down, and then they go all the way up to our next station. So if you follow me right over here, please. So right over here we have the gang knives, and these are the oldest and simplest machines on the canning line. So what you would need to do is take your fish, place it flat like this in the basket. The basket would rise up, and the knives would cut the fish into can-sized pieces.
Cutting.
Yes.
Cutting.
So you can see right over here.
Yeah.
Little slits.
So
this
is going.
cut. Exactly.
Cuts.
And so we used to sell half-pound cans, as well as 1-pound cans. So you can see that the distance between each blade is of the same height as the half-pound can over here. So you can see that the piece of salmon would fit in here perfectly. However, what do you think you would have to do so that the salmon would fit into this can over here?
Maybe twice. Double side.
There's something else you can do. Instead of putting 2 pieces of salmon, they would remove every other blade, and by doing so, it's of a perfect fit.
They remove that.
Yeah. Now, as you can imagine, this was a dangerous job.
Very dangerous.
They're really sharp. These belts over here, sometimes they would fly off and hit you on the face. And on the other side, I'm not sure if you can see them, but we have some open chains.
Yes.
So if you got too close, you weren't careful.
Dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous, yeah.
And if you have a look at the photo, you'll notice that the men are wearing hats just to make sure that their hair wouldn't get caught in any of the open gears or chains.
Dangerous.
Yes, and the women, they would be using scarves to cover their heads. And so this kind of works like a Ferris wheel, and what happens next is that all the bits of salmon would be placed into this bin right over here, and then the pieces of salmon would be fed into the filling machine. So I'm not quite sure if you can see, but on the other side, right over there, we have a couple of pistons, some rods right over there.
When make cans, maybe you have to be kind of a boiled or kind of a killing the disease, no? No need. Later. Okay, it's okay. So
just pieces of salmon are fed right over there into the filling machine, and then the rods on the other side, they would be rotating, and they would basically punch a piece of salmon into an empty can. And as you can see, all the empty cans come from upstairs. Now, can you guess who would be working upstairs?
Maybe people working in general. I mean Indian people.
No, children. Little kids. We had little kids working upstairs, and their job was to make sure that there was a constant flow of empty cans for the filling machine. So
how old are they? Maybe
8 to 12 years old.
8 to 12, very small.
Very small, and they would be working upstairs for a couple of hours a day, dropping down the empty cans for the filling machine. And so once your cans have been filled with salmon, this is what they look like.
Yeah.
And then they continue on to our next station, right over here. So can you guess what this machine over here would be used for?
Packing. Packing. I mean, making a cover. No?
Not quite. This is actually a weighing machine. So this machine would detect whether or not the can was underweight.
Weighting.
So right over here like this. So each platform is an individual weighing scale. So what would happen is that all the underweight cans
taken away.
Yeah, so what happens, they come right over here onto this track, further away from us, and as you can see, there's a dead end. So the underweight cans cannot continue down the canning line. However, if the can was overweight, or if it had exactly half a pound of salmon, it comes onto this track right over here. Just like that. And so this was the patching table, and the women working at this station would pick up the overweight cans, take a pair of scissors, and remove the extra bit of salmon. Take that piece of salmon, place it on the other side.
Oh.
So the lady working on that side would take that piece of salmon and place it in underweight can.
And then return.
Bring it back over here so that it could continue down the canning line.
Yes.
You can see right over here.
Oh, so those people working for that.
Yes. And so this wasn't an easy job since you had 120 cans a minute coming out of the weighing machine. So if you're working at this station, you're looking at 2 cans pass by every single second. So some of the women would faint on their first day of work. However, this was a well-paying job.
Well paid.
Yes. And they even had their own table in the lunchroom so that they didn't have to sit next to the slimers, the women who were responsible for cleaning the fish. So these women had their own table in the lunchroom. And if you're working at this station, you would also have to make sure that you wouldn't find something like this, a finger in your can of salmon. So that's why these women were very well paid.
Finger?
Yes.
Finger is a finger?
Yeah. So they were in charge of quality control. You wanted to make sure you wouldn't find a strand of hair or any dust or anything like that in your cans of salmon, because they were the last ones to see the cans before a lid would be placed on top of them. So that's why they were very well paid. They were in charge of quality control as well. And so we had a lot of older European women working at this station.
Not Chinese women, but
European. Yes. So really the color of your skin and your gender would determine where you would work along the canning line. And so now that your cans have the right amount of salmon, they can continue on to our next station. Do you have any questions so far, sir?
No, it's very interesting. So how much do they pay? These guys?
Maybe like $1 a day.
$1 a day, but those women, maybe
little
bit. I mean, the 1/3 or half. Not so much difference.
The kids would get paid 10 cents a day.
Kids are 10 cents, and usually $1, and maybe 50 cents or 60 cents a day.
Yeah. So it really depends on the year as well. So that's why it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly how much they would earn.
How much for this kind is sold in retail price?
Well, in 1952, the salmon itself was 25 cents a pound.
25 cents for pounds, and this is half pound.
But then you have to factor in the cost of the can itself as well. So it's a little bit difficult to tell the exact cost. But as you can see,
retail price, maybe $1. How much do they pay? I mean, the people pay for buying.
It would have to be more than 25 cents a pound.
25 cents.
More than 25 cents a pound.
25 cents.
Because you have to also include the cost of the cans and the labor. So.
Yeah.
And so what happens now that the cans have the right amount of salmon, they come right over here, and right before you place a lid on top of each can, they would add something inside. Can you guess what that would be?
They add the oil, maybe.
No, the oil is actually naturally released from the fish itself. So they wouldn't add any oil, no water.
Kind of a chemical, no?
Yeah, you're a little bit close. They would add a little bit of salt.
Salt.
So right over here, this is a salt shaker.
Salt is added to the can.
So they add a little bit of salt to preserve the salmon and to add a little bit of flavor. And that's the only thing they would add to each can. And so now that the can has a little bit of salt added to it, it continues right over here. And this machine is the clincher. Clincher. And what it does is it takes a lid and slides it on very loosely on top of each can. And then afterwards, it stamps a code on top of the lid. So the code indicates the name of the cannery, the date, as well as what type of salmon you have in here. So you would have S for sockeye, C for coho, or P for pink. So at this point, you can see that the can has not been completely sealed. I can still twist the lid around. And there's a reason for that. What's inside that we haven't yet removed?
We haven't yet removed. What's inside?
Yes.
まあオイルなんじゃん、オイル。オイルオブサーモン。
No.
Or
The air. We haven't yet cooked the can.
Ah, so air is still inside.
If I cook the can with the air trapped inside, the air would expand and I would have mini salmon bombs going off in my cooker. So what you need to do is remove the air from each can. And so we have right over here a vacuum sealer to do that.
Vacuuming the air, ne?
Exactly.
Vacuuming.
So what this machine does is it removes the air from each can, and then you have 4 small rollers that come down and fold the lip over. So, right over here, you can see the difference between these 2 cans. At this point, it's nice and tight and good for 2 to 3 years. So initially, when we did not have the vacuum sealer, what you would need to do is take all your cans, seal them, place them in a giant steam box. You would allow the pressure to build up inside, and right before the cans would explode, you would take them out, poke a little hole, let all the air come out, and then you would use a lead to seal the hole shut.
By hand?
Yes,
At
by
that
hand.
time.
You would do it by hand. And the problem with using lead is that sometimes the lead would drip into the food, and a lot of people died from lead poisoning. So that was
lead, yeah. Very,
a PB, the chemical.
Yeah, PB, yeah.
So
Normally, yeah.
very, unfortunate that many people died from lead poisoning.
I mean, the people buy the salmon can died.
Yeah,
because of the poison of the
lead.
PB.
Yeah. So this machine really saved many lives since you're no longer using lead to seal the cans shut. So we'll move these through there. And if you look up right behind you, right over there, that's the can loft. So that's where all the little kids would be working, dropping down the empty cans for the filling machine. And then right over here, this is the lye bath. And lye is a very corrosive solution. And basically, it was used to remove anything from the outer surface of your cans.
But this is a stop, just emergency stop.
Some of the machines, we can start them. We can start some of the machines. So they're a little old, but some of them still work. And so, right over there behind you, we have a notice board with some rules. So number 1, no smoking. Number 2, you can't spit in the cans. And then number 6, any food product that falls on the floor must be discarded or properly reconditioned before putting back